Have you ever felt like you did everything right and still lost money on an investment? Have you ever done everything wrong and made money on investment and know you got lucky? Whether you win because of luck or you do everything right and have an adverse result, investing is frustrating and sometimes confusing, especially the deals where you felt like you did everything right. You had a plan, you checked every box, and yet the outcome tanked. But what if you could flip that moment around? I don't mean you go back in time and change the result, but I mean change how you think about the result. You're listening to the Real Estate Fast Pass, where we help high income earners become truly confident passive investors. My name is Jimmy, and I'm your guide through the wild world of real estate investing. With me, as always, is my producer, Jake. He's here to slow me down because when I get talking about real estate, I like to talk fast. And today on the show, we're going to dive into one of my favorite concepts that I had to learn the hard way. And this concept, it can mess with even the smartest investor. And the concept is called resulting. Resulting is when you confuse the outcome of a decision with the quality of the decision itself. So to unpack that, we're going to talk about Seahawks Super Bowl losses and whether Pete Carroll made the worst call of all time or had the worst result of all time. We're going to talk about forgetting you actually owned a house. And I'm even going to talk about an 11-year-old's baseball swing, how this all ties in to an investor's mindset. So in this episode, you can look forward to learning 3 things. Number 1 is why even good decisions can lead to bad outcomes. And that doesn't mean you should necessarily quit on the plan or your investing criteria. Number 2, how sticking with your investing criteria protects you from emotional investing. And number 3, why building wealth requires mental discipline and not just hoping for lucky breaks. On the podcast, I'm even going to tell a hilarious story. It's actually the only story I've ever gone viral with of how I actually forgot I owned a house. So if you're ready to stop chasing wins and you want to start building long-lasting wealth, stick around for this episode of the Real Estate Fast Pass. All right, welcome back to the Real Estate Fast Pass podcast. You already heard the intro and all that shenanigans, so I'm just going to get right into it. We are going to talk about a concept that I think every investor needs to know about, and the concept is called resulting. Have you ever heard of resulting, Jake?
No.
Okay, so the best example I have of what resulting is like is, do you remember the Seahawks where the Seahawks, when they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots, they threw a last-second interception?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
And everybody's like, Pete Carroll's the dumbest. Like, that was a horrible call, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And so I got this concept from a book written by a World Series of Poker champion. I think it's called Thinking in Bets. And so if you look back and review what he did, now granted, he had Marshawn Lynch, the best running back in the league. So, but the interception rate for a 2-yard pass was like 1% that year. Like all statistical analysis said throw the ball versus run the ball.
Yeah.
And so when Pete Carroll was interviewed about it, and they're like, that's the worst call in Super Bowl history. And he's like, no. That's the worst result in Super Bowl history.
Shoot.
Because the data was on his side.
Yeah.
Like runs from the 2-yard lines versus passes from the 2-yard lines, passing usually won, at least for that calendar year, that season. And so that got me thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. What if you do all your thinking correctly and you still don't get the result you want? What does that mean? You got any ideas?
And you still don't get the result you want?
Yeah, but you followed your criteria perfect. Like, here's another example. So for those of you new to the podcast, one of my greatest real estate mistakes ever was forgetting I owned a house. I bought a house, and then we were moving offices that day, so the person who signed the lease had never gotten the CRM. The closing docs never got in the CRM. None of this happened. Like, I completely forgot I owned the house. And 6 months later, I get a letter from the county saying, you have a derelict property. Like, grass up to my knees, all that type of stuff. And I'm like, I get the letter. I'm like, I don't own that house. What are they talking about? And then I check the county records. I'm like, uh-oh.
I do own that house.
And so at the time, I didn't know what to do with it. This was like probably 2018.
Yeah.
So all I did was hold on to it. I got the COVID bump. And I made $25,000 on the house. But I mean, I boarded the windows up. I just sat on it for 3 years. So win-loss column, that house goes in a win.
Right.
So I had a great result.
Yeah.
But should I keep doing deals like that?
No.
Like the thought process I did to buy the house, to maintain the house, it was completely off. Essentially, I got lucky.
Right.
The market saved me. And now that is a lesson learned. The great thing about real estate.
I mean, you bought a good deal.
I bought it underpriced, but then it got destroyed.
Yeah.
And I could have done the rehab. Instead, I just waited for somebody else to buy it for me and I wholesaled it.
Right.
And so
because you forgot about it.
yeah. And then the lesson for me was two things. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
New systems, new processes, and also that real estate's like a bad haircut. Time will solve every real estate wound. That's a subject for another podcast.
Yeah.
But some people would be like, hey, I'm born under a lucky branch and I'm just going to make decisions like that. If I was resulting.
Yeah.
Now, I've lost $25,000 on flips where I didn't do everything right, but I did 80% right. And so just because you get the result you want doesn't mean you're on the right track.
Right.
That's what the concept of resulting means.
Okay.
It also means just because you don't get the result you want doesn't mean what you did leading up to that decision was wrong.
Right.
But this is like a higher level thinking that as an investor, you're going to have to be able to do. Another example of it, like, did you ever play baseball?
Sure. Yeah.
You
Grade
know
school.
Yeah. You know what stepping in the bucket is? You don't put your front foot right at the pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
And so you step in the bucket, you cannot hit an outside pitch.
Right.
And so my 11-year-old he doesn't love to do it anymore, but first part of the season, he loved to step in the bucket because he could get away with it.
Uh-huh.
Like anything inside, he would just destroy.
Sure.
And then he was getting the result he wanted, but he was not executing the correct fundamentals.
Right.
But when you're 11, you just care about the results. And so, yeah, he ran into a little slump because people started pitching him outside. Because other enterprising coaches at 11 years old see some kid step in the bucket. He tells the pitcher, only throw him outside. And so, then to work with the kid, and he'll still go back and be like, I just want the result. I'm not going to put in the work to do what I need to do.
Yeah, to break down his swing and rebuild it.
Proper fundamental.
Right.
Like hubris, arrogance, pride. It's an example of resulting. You're looking at the result. You're saying, I'm the best. I'm the greatest. I don't really care how I got here.
Yep.
And so what does that have to do about real estate? Any idea?
Well, when you're talking about like the first example, like Seattle, it's like, well, if you made the correct call, but you didn't get the right result, it's like, well, run it again.
Right. But you can't because it was an interception. It was game over.
Yeah.
Which stinks.
Yeah. For Super Bowl purposes, like that's
But if it was game 9,
yeah,
no problem.
Right. Run it again.
Yeah. But so real estate wise, and then, there's the whole meathead thought process, like in sports, like I just care about results, which is true. And in business, I just care about results, which is true. But as a passive investor who this podcast is designed for, they can't swing hammers. They can't really find a deal on their own. They can't do a lot on their own. So they're a purely passive investor.
They should be if they're smart and like they're staying in their wheelhouse of the high income earner.
So what does that mean? What is a passive investor? What can they actually be responsible for?
Moving on new deals, I guess.
They can do two things. They can have a plan on how they're going to invest, and they can have a buying criteria. That's all you can do as a passive. When I do passive investments, all I can have is an investing criteria and then the plan to execute. And then this is the higher level thinking that to grow wealth, you have to do.
Yeah.
Part of if you want to be wealthy, you only have 24 hours a day. It's really hard to grow wealth as a doer.
Yeah.
Professional athletes can kind of do it, but then eventually they have to learn to invest their windfalls.
Sure.
And then, people, even like surgeons come and do real estate because they realize they can only operate 24 hours a day. They cap out. So if you're doing things, you can be a high income earner, but to actually build wealth, you have to have a plan and you have to have a buying criteria.
It sounds like it takes a certain amount of discipline.
Mental discipline, yeah.
Yeah, this is like that higher level of thinking is essentially.
Yeah. And I got this idea from that same book, what I learned, Losing $1 Million.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like the whole book of all the plans, everything, he goes through the definition of speculating, investing, betting, all that stuff. It's a great book. But at the end of the day, the lesson learned is all you can do as an investor is have a plan and get an investing criteria. That's it. And now if you're only looking at results and resulting, that becomes very tough because when you see something on Instagram that, Reddit is blowing up on the internet or crypto's blowing up on the internet. Yeah. I'm going to go chase the latest thing going around in social media.
Right.
And then sometimes you're going to win. But like if your buying criteria and your investing plan is to chase things on social media, which people do.
Right. Sure.
And then you see the one guy who gets lucky.
Right.
Like, you're going to open yourself up for many, many losses.
That's like your son, stepping in the bucket and then like
Yeah.
you're just gonna get screwed on the outside
He
pitches.
crushed. He crushed 9 and 10-year-old baseball, destroyed it when no one could pinpoint their pitches.
Yeah,
And then the whole time I'm like, hey, once pitchers can control their pitches, like you're gonna have to be able to hit the entire side of the plate.
yeah,
But he
yeah. So
God
that
bless
goes.
his little heart. He just wanted the result.
Accredited investors, if you're looking for quality real estate to put in your portfolio that is pushing 30 to 40% in annual returns, well, I'm glad you're watching this ad because I bring my investors about 400 of those deals every year, and all the due diligence is already completed. We also have all the lending lined up, and we have the construction and property management already set and ready to go. And it's all in-house, all done start to finish by my team. All you got to do is review the deal, write the check, show up at closing, and you're done. And the best part is there's no equity splits. You own the asset 100%. My team gets paid to do the things you were already going to pay for anyway, like having someone find the deal, fix up the deal, and manage the house for the long term or offload the deal for a flip. So if you want to invest in real estate and you want to build a portfolio on autopilot, or maybe just flip a few houses with a vertically integrated team doing all the work for you, A to Z, click the link. There's more information on how this works on the next page and the option to book a call with us to discuss working together.
You're going to have to be able to hit the entire side of the plate.
Yeah,
But he,
yeah. So
God
that goes.
bless his little heart. He just wanted the result.
You gotta respect it on some level, right? But then,
Man.
like it comes back to like the 4 pillars. Like, hey, you chased this thing you saw on Reddit, some meme stock or whatever, and maybe you won short term, but you didn't have any of the 4 pillars, really working in your favor.
Yeah. The key part of my buying criteria is I only invest in the 4 pillars. The reason I do not do crypto is because it only appreciates. And like people are going to make millions in crypto, but it doesn't fit my buying criteria.
Yeah,
It does not fit my plan. So I'm out. And that gives me a lot of mental clarity. It gives me a lot of ability to focus. And so I have deals coming at me all the time, especially like you ever hang out with gamblers?
I got a couple friends.
Do
Yeah,
they ever talk about their losses?
nope,
They only talk about their winners, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Same
that's
thing
true.
with investors.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So you get a bunch of group of guys, you're at the country club, people are only going to talk about their winners.
Right.
And like, I just live with absolute blinders. Like, hey, Jimmy, do you want to do in this investment? You want to do this? You want to do that? I was like, no, it's not in my buying criteria. I
Right.
don't have a plan for it. I'm out.
Right. Right.
And so if you're listening to this podcast and you want to become a passive investor, listen to this podcast. Also listen to What I Learned Losing $1 Million and recognize that you have to have a buying criteria and you have to have a plan. It's the whole game. It's what everything is about. And then when you want to build long-term wealth, you have to get away from the addiction to result. Because like I get it too. When I'm flipping, like I result. And then when you lose or have a bad flip, if you don't make any corrections, like the great thing about having a buying criteria and a process is, let's say I lose money on a deal, right? No problem. I just tweak my buying criteria. That's the only thing I can do as a passive investor. That's my job, is to take incoming data, to take experience, and to go to my written. And I mean, people should write out their part of the Ranger Real Estate course is you write out your buying criteria.
Yeah.
And then you add it. You add to it the more you keep going and lessons learned.
Sure. Refine it over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all an investor can do.
Yeah.
And so you want to get away from the addiction to result.
So like in your program, when your team is like finding these deals and like serving them up on the platter, right? Sending them out, like, am I seeing like your property list?
Yeah.
Sending out deals for the people in the program. Then they can go back to their buying criteria, evaluate this deal according to that, and then just like pull the trigger and move.
And then part of the program is I'm going to give you your scaffolding of what your buying criteria should be.
Yeah.
Now you can disagree with me. I don't care, but I'm just going to give you something to get started.
Right.
Your outline.
Right.
And then you fill it in. And then because some people want certain type of assets, they go ahead and fill that in.
Yeah.
And then to build wealth, it's really all you can do. And it's your only job.
Yeah.
Because once you outwork yourself, then it comes down to higher order mental processes.
You mean like that surgeon that can't put any more hours in the day, so to speak? Like
gonna
you
cap
maxed out, right?
I'd have to look it up, but I believe most surgeons cap out around 600K.
Okay.
And they can't operate anymore. And then remember, they only become surgeons after fellowship, and they're already something like 35.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a limited window for that skill set.
Right.
It's a long limited window. It's very fruitful. I'm
Yeah.
not
yeah.
talking
yeah.
smack about
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
a big limited window.
Right.
But the advice for this podcast is to make sure you're not resulting, because the endorphins of the win also make you a little arrogant to say, I don't need a buying criteria. I don't need a plan.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go chase wins. And like, that was a lesson I had to learn. Part of the time I spent as an investor with a chicken, running around with a chicken with my head cut off, is I was just looking for results, and I had no buying criteria, no investment plan.
Is that the famous oil well?
Yeah, oil well, doing eBay, doing all of it. Pure indicator for me. If someone's switching business every 6 to 9 months, or sorry, 3 to 6 months, I'm like, oh, they don't know what they want to do when they grow up yet. And then that's it. It's very hard when you're on social media, seeing all these opportunities and whatnot.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you see this a lot with investors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially
where they're resulting. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they have an adverse result,
Uh-huh.
and then they're like, oh, this isn't going to work, not yada, yada, yada. And then I'm going to have to be like, well, real estate's like a bad haircut. Don't worry about this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the other thing about single family real estate. The bank carries the risk, not you.
Yeah.
But and then this also goes into the cash flow obsession, is if you're looking for the result of cash flow within the first like 36 months, you're going to be constantly disappointed, and you're
Yeah.
going to make the wrong decisions.
Right.
You're going to sell assets that you shouldn't sell, and you're going to buy assets you shouldn't buy.
And that's because they are falling into the mistake that those critics of the coach of the Seahawks made, where like,
Looking at result.
yeah, you judged off one result or one outcome.
Yeah.
And then like now you're trying to rethink the whole strategy.
Yeah.
Right. So you see it often. And does this go back to something we've talked about before? Like that, hey, maybe you're putting, I mean, I'm thinking through here something. You're a high income earner. Maybe for some reason you've gotten into your head, you want to like retire early. You want to leave the workforce. And now you're like putting all of your like
eggs in one basket.
Yeah. And
like
trying to like, results over here rather than sort of refining the joy in your actual job and then sticking to a smart buying criteria in real estate.
Like you got to recognize, if you want to get out of your job and you want to do it in 3 years, like you're probably not a good enough investor to do that. The house will not be the driver. You will be the driver, but there's a lot you have to learn in order to do that. So a lot of people, we've talked about that on this show a lot. Like, I want to get out of my job. Like, okay, cool. Well, how are you going to be productive elsewhere then? And one of the things you can be productive in is being an investor. To be a good investor, you got to have a plan. You got to have a buying criteria.
Yeah. And it's a long-term plan. And that's where you're going to have to like be disciplined, execute this over 10 years.
And then be like, look, am I looking for a 10-year result or am I looking for a 90-day result? If you're going to invest with us, it's a 10-year result.
Yeah.
If you want to invest on Instagram, you can get the 90-day result, or at least the belief of that.
Yeah.
So part of the real estate fast pass is you do get to hop on a call with me, and I do help you build out your initial buying criteria and your initial 10-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I do that? Because you can't be a passive investor without those two things.
That's that target setting call. Nice.
So do you think we beat the resulting horse to death?
I mean, I'm clear. It's like a simple, like somewhat counterintuitive, like that example of your son, like really helps put it together where it's like, yeah, don't make that mistake.
And then especially as a new investor, because I used to make this mistake all the time. I was just result. Well, I'm not getting the result I want because I don't have the proper plan. I don't have the proper buying criteria. And like, what is luck? The definition of luck is an opportunity for gain. So I say this all the time to my team, like we'll do certain courses of action because it allows us the possibility to get lucky. We have a covered downside, but if we get lucky, like I'll buy certain houses to wholesale. And I'll say, all right, I'm willing to lose 10 grand on this.
Yeah.
But we have the opportunity to get lucky if a few things roll our way. As long as I have a covered downside, cool. I'll take that risk all the time. And a lot of times the luck pays off. And if luck pays off 75% of the time, as long as you have covered downsides, you're going to do pretty well.
Right. Yeah, that known finite downside is covered in some way.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity for the unlimited return.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I have a couple sticklers on my team, and this came up. Like sticklers are people who want everything to be right all the time.
Yeah.
And like I am not looking to be right all the time.
Right.
I'm looking to, when I'm wrong, to have a covered downside, and when I'm right, I can win huge. It's called asymmetrical investing. But I don't even attempt to be correct all the time.
Yeah. No, I think that's a gift. I mean, So my like personality type, or what's called like temperament,
Yeah.
is like the phlegmatic, which is like you want to eliminate risk, but that's impossible, right? And so then I sometimes move too slow
Yeah.
to actually seize opportunities.
There's nothing more risky than denying reality. And the reality of life is you cannot eliminate risk. You
Right.
can only mitigate it.
Yep.
And so, the action to take with this would be get on a fast pass, get with me, get with a team member of mine. We'll give you your buying criteria. We'll set up a target setting call for you. So you'll get the first steps of actually becoming an investor. We're going to knock out for you. And if not, and you're going to go out on your own and you don't want to do it with a fast pass, I think that's great, but don't do it without a plan. Don't do it out of buying criteria. And I probably wouldn't do it without some type of mentor, at least your initial plan showing you how to do that.
Help you get to the fundamentals.
Exactly. So if you like the concept of resulting, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Throw me out a comment. Hey, Jimmy, resulting was the awesomest thing I've ever heard of. Or, hey, Jimmy, resulting was really stupid. Don't do podcasts on that anymore. And we will see you next time on the Real Estate Fast Pass.
Boom.